Well, hello. I'm sorry I haven't made a video in about a month now. I was on vacation for a few weeks, and during my vacation, I got into a car accident, and I'm just now finally getting better. I wasn't hurt or anything, but boy, I was sore everywhere, and now I'm finally able to get back into the swing of things. And while I was on vacation, I was building an awesome presentation for everyone. Um, but then, I got into a car accident and I finally got back home, and then my laptop died. So now here we are. I'll have a whole slew of videos uh, uploading after this one does, but this is my 100th video, so I wanted it to be special. It won't be all that great, as I'm sure you can tell, but it's important to me, so I wanted to share it. I get all asked a lot, how'd you get into EXPs? Why do you collect so many? Well, when I was a kid, we had a few of them. We had this black one, this blue one, and this blue one, all 1982 4-speeds. And my parents would take me everywhere in them. Whenever we had to run an errand, visit some friends, my dad or mom would hop into the driver's seat, and I'd sit in the front passenger seat with them when I was, only 4 and 5. So I've spent a lot of time inside some of these, and they're a big part of my life, and wanted to share it with you. But my mom had a blue 1982 EXP when she, as her first car, when she got her license. It was a 4-speed car with some graphics on the lower valance. I think it had 2 mirrors. It had a sunroof and the 1.6 carbureted engine. But right about the time she was turning 18, her parents sold it out from under her. Years later, she met my father, and he had learned of this story, so he set out to replace that car that she lost. He got her this 1982 EXP from Minnesota. It was a running car. Someone had repainted it. It originally was silver over black, but details are for a different video. And he drove that one a lot. I'd ride with him in this thing everywhere. We drove that almost more than mine. A few months later, he had joined the EXP.com. That was the online forum for EXPs before Facebook came around. And after he had joined, he had saw 2 ads in there for these 2 blue 1982 EXPs, both for sale down in North Carolina, just half an hour or less away from each other. And the guys, the owners, had never even met each other. But the gentleman, or one of these owners, had got a red 82 EXP, much like this one, so he didn't need his blue one anymore. He was jonesed over the red one because it had the high output engine, so he put for sale one of the blue ones. I think it was mine. So this one is mine. My dad and his friend drove all the way down to North Carolina, and they took turns driving this one back, and then they towed this one all the way back. Because my blue one here was a daily driver. That's why it became mine, and we have restored it first. It had most potential because it had the most reliability, most miles. So after that came home, he drove around the black one and this blue one a lot with me in the passenger seat. But then my brother came into the picture, and now there was 4 of us in the family, and we really needed a family car. So all these EXPs got set to the side for a while we just kept riding around in the Aerostar, Taurus SHO, and Mercury Mystique. Until 2013 or 14, we started building the house we currently live in. We had done 85% of it ourselves. We did almost everything but pouring the concrete and digging the hole. Everything else we did ourselves or had a hand in ourselves. And I spent a lot of time here myself, so I was able to earn that car. And this was only when I was 14. So when I turned 15, I was able to start working on this guy. The black one here had blown a gasket or something similar to that nature shortly before we stopped driving it. So we thought, well, the best first car will be the one that we can get up and running the easiest, mine. So we did. I spent the whole winter working on it. We got it mechanically perfect. So in March of 2015, I was able to drive it all summer. But at the end of the summer, I got sick of water leaking in through the windshield, the back window, and through the door windows, because all the gaskets on these fail over time because they're 30-some years old. So we popped the windshield out, and since then, it's undergone a complete restoration since August of 2015. The year after we started its restoration, I had seen this one for sale on Craigslist. I found the ad for it in the Facebook page for EXPs. That had replaced the old EXP forums. And I was excited over this. I thought, wow, cool, a convertible, it's something rare. We have 3 EXPs and none of them are convertible. But they are, all 4 of them are 82s with 4 speeds and 1.6 carbureted engines. I thought, wow, I'd love that. I would do anything in the world to have that. Because the whole summer I was driving my blue one. I took it to a few car shows and I drove it everywhere. That was the only car I drove that summer of 2015. And everywhere I go, it was incredible. People at the gas station pumps would walk up to me and say, "Hey, is that an EXP?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And we'd talk about it for a while. When I go to car shows, people look at it and ask what it is, and some know. Some will say, "Hey, is that an EXP?" My brother used to have one. My cousin used to have one. My mom used to have one. All these people in their late 30s, early 40s had one of these guys, and they knew what it was. It's so weird because when I was growing up, I had only ever seen these 3, mine and the other blue one and the black one from Minnesota. Those are the only 3 I've ever seen. Even now, I've only seen 11 EXPs in person. One is a LN7. But I've only seen 11, and I have 8 of them. It's just crazy. But at that point, I'm taking my blue one to car shows, and I've only seen R3. It was really cool because these are ridiculously rare. I'd park mine at school, and you wouldn't see anything out in the parking lot like it. Nothing. I'd take it out on the road, you'd see nothing like that. The closest thing to it is a Dodge Omni, and you don't see those anywhere either. So it was exciting to have these. I loved it. People loved it. like, literally every time I got gas in this car, it never failed, someone would walk up to me and talk to me about my car. How many cars do you have that are like that? That's incredible. So I adored it. There is no experience like driving an EXP every day of your life. There's nothing like it. Nothing compares. Yeah, there are fast cars out there, but there's not there's not one with so much character. I've never seen a car with so much character as these guys, and I love them for it. So I went up to check this convertible. I was second or third in line, and the first people that looked at it were owners of the conversion company that Ford had paid to make those. And they weren't sure if they wanted it or not, so I came up and it needed some work. I could tell that right away. I could see that all the floors were rotted. But otherwise, it was in decent shape. I had no idea if it ran or not. So that was a gamble. But I ended up buying it on the spot anyways, with all of my college funds, all my college savings. I bought that convertible. And I had done it in February of 2016. Or, sorry, 2017. Or was it 16? Yeah, February and March of 2017, because I had graduated. I was doing my second semester in college at this time, when I saw it for sale. And I got it, and I changed colleges, so that next fall I was going to a music school instead. And then I heard about these two. I had saw this one for sale down in North Carolina. It was an EXP member selling it. It was his parts car. He used all the parts he liked out of that one to make his silver 82 car awesome, and it's really, really cool. If I have a chance to go see it again, I definitely will take him up on it. But he left me this beautiful shell. It's completely rust-free, and it's got a 1.6 high-output engine and 5-speed in it. So, it's got great potential. But I wasn't too concerned about it. I'm not going to drive down to North Carolina just for one car. And then I saw this up for sale, and I was dying to have it. It was an electric EXP. Some high school or tech school had converted it to electric propulsion for competition with other schools in, I think, 1993. But we saw that, and I was in contact with the owner, and my mom said, "Oh, an electric car. I only drive 8 miles a day to work. So an electric car that only has a range of like 30 some miles would be perfect." So we ended up getting that for her, and this was only a couple hours away from this red EXP, both in North Carolina. So my dad, my mom, and I both did a road trip all the way down to North Carolina from Wisconsin here. We had stopped at Joe's first to get his 83 EXP. We put that on a trailer, and then we went a ways east and got this electric car, put that on the trailer, and then the electric car came with, I think, 16 golf cart batteries, 8-volt batteries. So we filled up the back bed of our pickup truck with them. And then we finally headed out and went all the way home. But stopping along the way, we visited Indiana, where another EXP member had had a whole bunch of EXP parts to give away for free. So I thought, you know what, we're on our way back, we'll grab them. And all this time I've been collecting other parts for these cars. I've been going to swaps like Jefferson and Iola to get parts for these. I've been scavenging through Craigslist to get parts for these things, because they're so rare. No one has them anymore. When I was little, Dad would shop at salvage yards to find good parts or bodies for. But after we got mine restored, we started looking around at all the salvage yards he had visited that used to have a whole bunch of EXPs and LN7s, and they had all been scrapped under the whenever the Cash for Clunkers thing went out, the whole salvage yard business just crashed. Unless you have 2002 or newer cars, the salvage yard business for this just wasn't there anymore. So half the salvage yards that had these weren't even yards anymore. They were just fields full of rusted rims. So anytime you could find parts for these, it was extremely special. Because here in Wisconsin, like I said, I've only ever seen R3 EXPs. I wasn't aware of any others. So we got those two home, and we're still working on them. The electric one just needs to be gone through, make sure that all of its electronics capability is up to snuff for the road, and then go through the brakes, make sure they're fine too, and then that can hit the road. So we got those two last fall. So the fall, we got them over Thanksgiving and Black Friday. So the Thanksgiving of 2017 is when we got those. Then this year, this summer, I saw this for sale on the Facebook Marketplace, just not even an hour away from me. And I saw it, and I said, oh, I have to have it. It's a 1984 EXP Turbo. It wasn't listed as a turbo car, it was just listed as a Ford EXP. It didn't even have a year on it or anything. But from the one picture it had, I could see parts of the chin spoiler, and I said, oh, that's a turbo. So I called him up immediately, and I bought it on the spot. I showed up the next day to pick it up. It was quite the fiasco to do, but it was well worth it. I wanted this turbo, hell or high water, for the ground effects in the wing. I didn't care if the floorboards were rotted out. I didn't care if it had the engine in it or not. I just wanted the special body works that they had on it. So I got it, and I'm happy to have it. Turned out the engine's in it. It's not locked up. It's got I think 98 or 99,000 miles on it, and I'm only the second owner of that car. It's missing all of its original TRX rims, and someone had bypassed the turbo in it. So I started shopping around for some turbos and some rims, because I learned that this doesn't need much to get back up and running. Well, and while I was looking for parts for this, I also needed to get around some rims and tires for my blue one, because I was getting ready to paint it towards the end of the summer, and I know that getting these 13-inch tires is near impossible. There's only one company that makes them, and I can't afford brand new 13-inch tires, because these would be I think about $100 and some a piece. So I went out, and all the summer I've been shopping around for a few rims. So I picked up some Mustang rims. I picked up a whole bunch of free Tempo rims, and I saw an ad on Craigslist for some 15-inch Escort and EXP rims. They're the 15-inch aluminum rims. I don't have a picture on them on hand, but I have them in a different video. So I went out there, I visited him, I bought them, and he was sitting on a whole bunch of other rims. He was sitting on the factory TRX rims for like a EXP turbo. So I asked him about it. I told him about all the EXPs I had, and he said, "Hey, are you interested then in a spare turbo engine I got? I got it in the back. I don't have any EXPs or Escorts anymore, so I've been trying to sell it for the last 6 years and haven't been able to get the amount of money I want for it, so I'd give it to you real cheap." So I said, "Yeah, sure." I look at it. It's a 1.9 turbo. So someone took a 1.9 engine and converted it to a turbo with all of the 1.6 turbo parts. You know, the 1.6 turbo head, the turbo itself, the oil cooler, and so on and so forth. So I saw that and I said, "Oh, geez, yeah, I'd be interested in it. How much you want for it?" $200. Like, sold. I'll come back next weekend with my truck and we'll load it up, ship it all. I'll be a happy man. And then I also got a few other parts from him, some literature and some other things from him, and so I have a whole turbo engine now for out of a 1.9. A few months before that, I had also gotten a few transmissions, a 1.9 engine, a spare head, and a whole bunch of other spare goodies from a guy that used to demolition derby these cars. So I picked up a whole bunch of that stuff, and a year or two before that, I was picking up a whole bunch of nose cones and quarter panels from guys that had previously had a whole bunch of them. Like, there was a gentleman in Zimmerman that I had met at Jefferson or Iola, Wisconsin, their annual car swap. Because I was roaming around the tables and I saw he had an EXP badge, an LN7 badge, and a couple EXP visors, and I asked him about it. He said, "Oh yeah, I specialize in 50s and 60s Fords, but I had 3 EXPs way back when, and they were all totaled, but I kept all the good parts off them, and I have them back at my place in Minnesota if you want to buy them." I said, "Yeah, sure." So a month later I met up with him. Yeah, he had a whole bunch of quarter panels. He had an entire front clip for a red EXP. He had a nose cone for a LN7. He had a whole head, a set of gaskets, a hood or two, a whole bunch of antennas, and a few other little things, and I got it all. But the guy I got the turbo engine from, the 1.9 I was just mentioning, and the 15-inch rims, he lived over where my mom grew up, the town where she got her first EXP. This guy didn't know about my mom's EXP, but he did have a bunch, because he got these EXPs for his kids. Because at the time in Frederick, Wisconsin, there was a terrible car accident with a station wagon full of kids, and the cause of the accident had something to do with distracted driving from all the passengers inside. So he had told his kids that your car is going to be a 2-seater. I don't want excess kids messing around in there. Because in that station wagon crash, a lot of kids had died. And that, I found that crazy. That was just crazy, because my grandfather had told my mom, "Your first car is going to be a 2-seater, so you only ever have one passenger in there," because he had seen the same crash. So her first car became an EXP, and so did this gentleman's. It was just weird how small the world is. And then a few months later, just this fall of 2018, I picked up this red EXP. I've been in contact with a gentleman over in Minnesota who's been acquiring a few EXPs and an Escort. He used to have a whole bunch when he was a kid, and now he has a family of his own. He's trying to get back into his EXP and Escort collection. So he drove all the way out to Washington and Oregon and Montana. I think those were all the states, to get this EXP, a second EXP, and an Escort. But he had something come up and he had to leave state for a while. So he called up me, and because I live so close, and he was familiar with my massive collection here. He said, well, I wanted all the good parts off this red one for my 82 that was painted blue. I said, yeah, sure, that's fine. Just leave me with all the parts you don't want, and I'll make them good again. So he swapped over the doors, and he took all the good parts off this he wanted, and left me with most of the parts to his other one. But he wasn't able to get them all, so I need to visit sometime and get the last few pieces. But he had to get these cars out of office property, and no one likes paying storage for these, so it was either I buy it or it be scrapped. So I got it, but he didn't have a way of picking it up, so he drove it out to me, and that was fantastic. But this one's a little rough in the strut towers, but the floor and everything else is fantastic, so I'm hoping I can restore it for someone. But all my other ones I plan on keeping. It was incredible. Like I said, every time I got gas in this, people would say, "Hey, is that an EXP?" And we'd talk about them for a while. Even when I was getting my convertible, we stopped at a few gas stations and a diner, and everyone inside would say, "Is that an EXP?" or "What the heck is that?" And we'd say EXP, and they'd say, "Oh, my cousin used to have one of them." It was incredible. I wasn't even driving it. I had this on a trailer, and people were coming up and talking to us about it. Same with these two. We got gas in North Carolina and Indiana a few times, and every single time we got gas, someone came out and said, "Hey, is that an EXP? I don't believe it. I haven't seen one in years." My brother used to have one. It's unbelievable. So these are really important to me, and I plan on keeping as many as I can, but one or two will for sure go. So this one is almost restored. When I have it all done, the only thing that won't be stock on it is the emissions package in there. My convertible will be hopped up some, but it will appear stock because it's so rare. I don't feel right making any permanent changes to it. The electric car, we might do some battery upgrades to it and maybe upgrade the motor to something more efficient and maybe powerful. This red car is mostly a shell. It still has the engine and transmission in it, but it's been stripped of all its wiring and everything, so I'll probably take the innards out of the turbo, put them into there. So this will get all the entire turbo engine, the drivetrain, and then all the awesome ground effects and everything, and a set of louvers I have for it, and it'll look sweet. This guy is really rough. The floors aren't too bad. They got some holes in them, but the front radiator support is rotted out, the spare tire is rotted out, and all the suspension points are trying to rot out right now. This guy, like I said, I'll try to fix everything that's wrong for it, restore it for someone else that really wants a first gen, make them happy. This one, we're hoping to do a V6 Durtech swap in, hopefully. Because over the years, our family has had about a dozen Contours and Mystiques, and all with the 2.5 V6. So we're very familiar with that engine and drivetrain and the wiring harness. So that's something we could do if it works. This one here, head gasket blew right before we stopped driving it in 2003 or 4. So we gotta go through that. It's got a lot of rust, being it's from Michigan. Just like this one that's been in Wisconsin its whole life, and this one being in Michigan its whole life, and this one being in, I think, Oregon its whole life. But I'm hoping we can put an SHO in there, because the SHO Taurus that I spoke of earlier, the body had rotted out a few years ago, but all the drivetrain and powertrain is just fine, so I'm hoping we can put it in the back end of this, Shogun style. But yeah, I've put a lot of time into these, and all happy moments. I've never had a disappointing moment with any of these. It's when I popped a tire and when I had to fix the insane bodywork on this, but otherwise I love every second of it. I don't think I'd trade it for the world. And it's incredible the people you meet out on the road with these. Like driving around in Dad's Mustang, we've had thumbs up and stuff, and normal compliments, but no one's ever came up to us and had a conversation about one that they used to have or that their friend had. Only these. There's no experience like owning these, because no car has the character that these have. It's only a coincidence that all mine are first gens. I might get a second gen someday, but I'm just not a fan of the front end, because the front end is just an Escort end, so I might as well have an Escort. But I got enough spare EXP front ends that I can change an Escort, whether it be a GT, a 2-door, or 4-door, or a wagon. Wagon EXPs are sweet. We'll get there someday. I have all the parts to do it, so we'll make it happen. I just need a car.